Everyone called him the shark. In the world of high-stakes mergers, Dominic Rhodes was ruthless, brilliant, and famously cold. His billion-dollar deals made headlines. His competitors feared him. His employees revered him, or at least pretended to. But this morning, in the glass fortress of Rhodes Global Capital, Dominic was about to finalize the biggest acquisition of his career, a merger that would all but eliminate his last true rival, Harrington Textiles. One signature, and it would be done. He stood in his corner office, skyscraper high, sunlight bleeding through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The view of Manhattan was as commanding as the man who owned it. In front of him sat the contract, pages thick and ironclad. Across the room, his team buzzed nervously, checking figures, nodding, pretending not to hold their breath. Dominique reached for the pen. That's when he heard the voice. "Don't sign that contract," said the cleaning lady. Everyone turned. She stood by the doorway, mop still in hand, as wide as if she hadn't meant to speak out loud. She was older, maybe late 50s, with tired hands and a posture worn from years of scrubbing floors no one noticed. Her name tag read Marta. A beat of silence. Then murmurs. A junior associate stifled a laugh. The head of legal glanced nervously at Dominic, whose hand had frozen in midair. He looked at Marta. "Excuse me," he said. His voice was low, calm, but sharp as cut glass. Marta swallowed. I clean this office every night. For the past 7 years. I don't mean to interfere, sir. But I overheard parts of your meeting last night. About the Harrington deal. About the layoffs. The factory closures. That's confidential information, the CFO snapped, stepping forward. Dominique raised a hand. Let her speak. Marta hesitated, eyes flitting around the room. I used to work at Harrington. 32 years. Before my husband died, before I moved here to care for my daughter and her kids. I wasn't laid off, I left to help family. But I still talk to the people there. It's not just numbers. Those jobs you're about to cut? They're people. Fathers, mothers. My best friend's son just got hired last week, first job since college. The room was silent. I know I'm just a cleaning lady, she said, voice trembling, but I've seen more from these floors than you might think. And I know you don't have to do this. You could buy the company and keep the people. Maybe not all, but most. Maybe invest in the town instead of gutting it. Maybe, choose a different kind of legacy. She looked down, ashamed. I'm sorry. You leave. Dominique stared at her. In all his years of deals and data, no one had ever dared to interrupt him like that. Especially not someone so ordinary. But something about her, something disarmingly real, stirred in him a feeling he hadn't felt in years. Maybe not since he was a boy, growing up in a forgotten neighborhood, raised by a mother who they worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. He remembered her hands, calloused and cracked, just like Marta's. Dominique sat back. He looked at the contract. Then at the window. The city stretched endlessly outward, but he realized, for the first time in a long time, that he couldn't see people from up here. Only buildings. Only numbers. Slowly, he capped the pen. I need to think, he said. His advisors protested, but he waved them off. Leave me. I love you. Now. The room emptied in awkward silence. Marta lingered, unsure. You can stay, Dominic said quietly. She blinked. Sir. He gestured to a chair. Please. They spoke for almost an hour. Marta told him stories of the factory floor. Of the Harrington family, who once walked among their workers and knew their birthdays. She spoke of resilience. Of dignity. Of how easy it is to forget the cost of success when you're not the one paying it. And Dominic listened. Not as a billionaire. Not as a deal maker. But as a man, sitting across from a woman who had nothing to gain, and yet spoke anyway. That night, Dominic called a press conference. He announced the acquisition was paused. That instead of dismantling Harrington, Rhodes Global would partner with them, preserving jobs, investing in communities, and committing to long-term sustainability. The financial world was stunned. But in a small town where fear had turned into despair, people wept with relief. Martha didn't return to clean the office the next morning. Instead, she was offered a position on Rhodes' new community advisory board, leading a team focused on ethical business development. "Why me?" she asked. Dominique smiled. "Because when everyone else stayed silent, you spoke up. And that changed everything." The shark was gone. In his place stood a man who finally understood that power doesn't come from control, it comes from conscience.